So I was wondering not long ago about what the most expensive team in the NFL would look like, or in other words, who all the highest paid players in each position are. So I took a look and here it is. Now I can almost guarantee this will not be accurate within a few days or weeks, with extensions still being signed every now and then, but it is accurate as of the 9th of August, the day of recording, and even then when we get to the running back position I'll go over something there. But we start with Trent Williams at left tackle, looking to take home $15.1 million this season, making him of course the highest paid left tackle in the NFL. Then a left guard, we have Kelechi Osemele looking at $13.5 million this year, the highest paid overall guard in the NFL, not just the highest paid left guard, the second highest paid player on the Oakland Raiders team. And then at the center position we have a late change. This was originally Maurkice Pouncey's position, hence why we're looking at highlight reel plays from him, also because it was impossible to find for Brandon Linder, but Brandon Linder just recently signed a new contract that will see him make $11 million this year, the highest paid center in the NFL, the second highest paid player on the Jacksonville Jaguars team. Now he is number one this year because of a huge bonus, having obviously signed this contract this year. He will go down to a normal yearly thing of about 9 to 8 million, which will see him drop back down below Maurkice Pouncey. It's also why I thought I'd keep his highlights in there so that we can, talk about him as well. Then at the right guard position, we have David Castro. Now, he is actually only the third highest paid guard in the NFL, but he is the highest paid right guard in the NFL, looking to make $11 million this year, the fifth highest paid player on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at right tackle, we have Lane Johnson, who isn't the highest paid right tackle in the NFL. That's actually Jared Valdir, who is making $10 million this year. However, Lane Johnson is the highest paid player we can actually have in the right tackle position here, and he gets paid $9.8 million, which isn't much less. He's also the number one highest paid player on the entire Philadelphia Eagles roster, so he fits in here pretty well, even though he's technically the number 2 right tackle. Then at tight end, we have Jason Witten, looking to make $12.2 million this year. Got a big restructure bonus there. Will go down to $6 million next year. But this year he's making a lot, makes him the highest paid tight end in the NFL, makes him the second highest paid player on the Dallas Cowboys roster. Onto the wide receiver position and onto the highest paid player on the Dallas Cowboys roster, we have Des Bryant. Obviously the number 1 highest paid wide receiver in the NFL at $17 million. He'll be taking home this year, the 21st highest paid player in the NFL. Then on the other side we have Larry Fitzgerald at number 2, making $15.8 million this year. Number 2 highest paid player on the Arizona Cardinals as well. And then in the slot position, maybe a bit of a surprise here, we have Tavon Austin, the 3rd highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, making $14.9 million this year. That is down to a large roster bonus. He will be making usually $8 million, $9.5 million, that kind of number. Much more reasonable, but this year he is the 3rd highest paid wide receiver, the 2nd highest paid player on the Rams roster, and the 34th highest paid player in the NFL. Next up, we have the highest paid fullback in the NFL, Kyle Juszczyk. He is the 11th highest paid player on the San Francisco 49ers, making $3.7 million this year, which makes him the 380th highest paid player in the entire NFL. And then on to running back, and there's a bunch of asterisks flying around everywhere here. Le'Veon Bell, if he signs his franchise tag tender, will make $12.1 million this year, which is significantly more than LaShawn McCoy would make, and makes him the number 1 paid running back in the NFL, the number 3 paid player on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, technically, it's actually LaShawn McCoy who's the highest paid player in the NFL, rather the highest paid running back in the NFL. But Le'Veon Bell, as long as he signs his franchise tag tender, which he obviously will do at one point, or get a long-term deal which will pay him more or just a little bit less, Le'Veon Bell is the highest paid running back in the NFL. And then at quarterback, we have our number 1 man, Joe Flacco, the number 1 highest paid quarterback in the NFL, the number 1 highest paid player on the Ravens roster, the number 1 highest paid player in the entire NFL. Joe Flacco will be making $24.5 million this year, but Joe Flacco still reaping in the benefits of that Super Bowl win, and to be fair to him, a spectacular playoff run. So here we have it, the highest paid offense in the NFL. And you can see the value on the offensive line, of course, receivers, tight ends, everything looking good as well. Some of these guys, of course, bloated by bonuses, things like that. But with all that said, let's move on to the defense and see what that looks like. So on defense, we start with free safety Devin McCourty, making $10.9 million this year, the highest paid free safety, of course, the third highest paid player on the New England Patriots roster, the 72nd highest paid player in the NFL in total. Then at strong safety, we have another bonus bloated player, and now according to spotrac.com, this bonus came in the form of a roster bonus, which means it came in a little bit later, so I had originally organized this with Cam Chancellor being the highest paid. He's now only the third highest paid anyway, but Barry Church, who wasn't that easy to find highlight reel plays for, is the number 1 paid strong safety, the number 5 highest paid player on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then at right outside linebacker, we have Melvin Ingram, the recent benefiter of a newly signed contract. Now, he is only the number 4 highest paid outside linebacker in the NFL. However, he's the highest paid right outside linebacker. We'll talk about the left outside linebackers ahead of him when we get to that position. Melvin Ingram this year will be making $14.8 million. Makes him the second highest paid player on the Los Angeles Chargers roster. Then onto the left outside linebacker position, where we have Justin Houston looking to make $22.1 million this year. There's some big bonuses bloating that one, but it won't drop much below that number anytime within this contract. Justin Houston is the highest paid outside linebacker in the NFL. He's the highest paid player on the Kansas City Chiefs roster, and he's also the 5th highest paid player in the NFL. And now the two guys below him and ahead of Melvin Ingram are Von Miller and then Clay Matthews, both of course left outside linebackers. That is how we get these two guys here. Then onto the middle linebackers, starting with Navarro Bowman, and we're going to get some asterisks out here again. Navarro Bowman is the 3rd highest paid inside linebacker in the NFL. Mark Barron technically is the 2nd highest paid. However, Mark Barron is just moving over from an outside linebacker to an inside linebacker position. I thought we'll stick with an actual true we know is an inside linebacker, although we know Mark Barron's going to play an inside linebacker in that 3-4 scheme. However, Navarro Bowman will be being paid $9.5 million this year, makes him the 3rd highest paid inside linebacker, the 2nd highest paid player on the San Francisco 49ers. And ahead of him, and rightfully so, we have Luke Kuechly, the highest paid inside linebacker in the NFL, and that makes complete sense. He'll be paid $12.7 million this year, the 2nd highest paid player on the Carolina Panthers, the 49th highest paid player in the NFL. But this is one of the rare occasions, at least for me personally, where the best inside linebacker in the NFL is the highest paid player in his position as well. For most of these positions, that may or may not be the case, and even for this position, that may not be the case in your opinion. Then at the cornerback position, Josh Norman was paid to be the number 1 cornerback in the NFL, and he will be making $20 million this year, the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, the 2nd highest paid player on the Washington Redskins roster, and the 11th highest paid player in the NFL. Then at the number 2 position, Trumaine Johnson, like Kirk Cousins, has been feeding off of the franchise tag, making him the 2nd highest paid cornerback in the NFL this year, as he will make $16.7 million, making him the highest paid player on the Los Angeles Rams, the 23rd highest paid player in the NFL, and all because the Rams can't sign him or don't want to sign him to a long-term contract. And perhaps comically, the 3rd highest paid cornerback in the NFL is the guy the Rams could have used that tag on as well, but they chose Trumaine Johnson. Janoris Jenkins now being paid less than him, the 3rd highest paid cornerback, the 3rd highest paid player on the New York Giants, being paid $15 million this year. And now we know the Giants paid out some big contracts last offseason to these two players, and Olivier Vernon there as well, making $16 million this year, the 2nd highest paid defensive end in the NFL, the 2nd highest paid player on the New York Giants. And here is the highest paid defensive end in the NFL. It's Mohammed Wilkinson, the highest paid player on the New York Jets roster as well. He'll be making $18 million this year, and those $18 million make him the 19th highest paid player in the NFL in total. And completing our 3-man line, maybe not the perfect personnel, but I don't think you'd complain, we have Ndamukong Suh, the highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL, the 2nd highest paid player on the Miami Dolphins roster, making $19.1 million this year, but that's going to jump to $26.1 million next year, $28.1 million the year after that. Maybe you can expect some restructuring coming up, the 15th highest paid player in the NFL, and that completes this team. These are the highest paid players in their positions in the NFL. Now, I think the important question you might be asking yourself at the end of this is, how does this team's entire cap hit match up to the actual salary cap? You can only build this team with 2 entire salary caps worth. They are literally minus $173 million in the red. The salary cap this year is about $174 million, which means literally you would need 2 entire teams just to carry these 24 players to be able to afford them, and that is just how much the highest paid players in the NFL are actually paid. You put the best in each position and you're looking at 2 entire teams' salary caps.